At the moment, a lot of artists, a lot of designers, very frightened of it. There's this sort of ring of fear around it.
It has this marvellous sort of ambivalent qualities of being both hard and technical, but also sort of, quite sculptural and poetic all at the same time.
It has a colour-changing ability. It's very chameleon-like.
It's very exciting because it's a brand new material in an industry that has used the same materials and the same techniques virtually for thousands of years.
At half the weight of steel, titanium has been used in some of the world's most exceptional inventions. The fastest aeroplanes, extraordinary buildings, and expensive designer goods.
Not because it's precious in the sense you can melt it down and sell it on the black market. It's precious in the sense that engineers and craftsmen can do extraordinary things with it.
Coming up in this programme, the Luxury Channel explores the world of the wonder metal titanium and hears from leading designers and artists about this fascinating luxury metal of the future.
The work that goes into it is so labour-intensive, so expert, so highly skilled. It's like the high wire act of virtuoso craftsmanship.
This programme will also look at the history of titanium and hear what makes it one of the world's most extraordinary supermetals. Titanium is one of the most expensive metals in the world, and because of this, it has not been widely used. Discovered 200 years ago, the metal has always been notoriously difficult to work with. But all that is set to change. Recent breakthroughs in technology are allowing scientists and designers to use titanium in a whole new way.
And the story here is terribly interesting because it tells you quite a lot about what, radical use of materials can do.
Titanium has already proven itself to be a technically superior metal in aerospace, the military, and even the medical industry, where because of its biocompatibility, it is used for implants. But titanium is incredibly strong, an attribute which the artist David Schilling, who has recently been working with titanium, enjoys.
I think it's a rather an English failing that a lot of artists in this country get stuck into a mould. I think an artist should always develop and move on, like Picasso, like, Andy, whatever, or all the heroes that I love. They move things forward all the time.
10 years ago, Schilling first began creating freestanding sculptures in polished stainless steel. Always on the lookout for inspiration, the artist loves a challenge, which he has found with titanium.
It's so groundbreaking. When I started a year ago, the technology wasn't quite in place, and now it is. It's so exciting. The lightness is the main thing. I mean, it is extraordinary that you can have a piece of titanium and the same thing in steel, the same resistance, the same strength and so on. It's so different. The exciting thing is if a client of mine wants a sculpture, say, to feel at home on their jet, if I did it in titanium, it would be far more carbon footprint friendly than if I use stainless steel. So that's one of the sort of excuses for using titanium. It is a lovely thing. It's a lovely metal.
Schilling shot to fame at the age of 12 after he designed a hat for his mother Gertrude to wear to the Ascot races. It was to be the start of a long and successful career as a milliner. Schilling's hats were seen as sculptural works of art, so it was no surprise when he swapped his needle for a blowtorch. From his workshops in Monaco and London, he creates unique designs for clients all over the world.
I love the range, the variety of my life. Every area of design is exciting. I love the research. I love finding out how one can move things forward and be innovative. Most of the people I work with, both in Monaco and in London, have almost no... they've never used titanium before. So we're all learning.
Like many artists, Schilling is keen to exploit titanium's unique properties.
I can't see why one would bother to just copy a ring or something that could be made anywhere in silver, gold, platinum in titanium. I think it's got to go further than that. More people have got to be less frightened of it. Go for it. It is expensive. Go without a dinner for 4 with champagne and or 10 McDonald's only have 8. But invest a bit of time in it. It's worth it.
At £22,000 a tonne, titanium is 200 times more expensive than steel. And it would be easy to assume it must be very rare, but it is in fact found in abundance around the world, making it the 9th most plentiful element on the Earth's surface. From Australia to South Africa, Canada to Norway, it's even been found on the Moon. Titanium was discovered in Cornwall in England in 1791 by clergyman and amateur scientist William Gregor, who reported he had found a magnetic black sand near the beaches of Manakan and named the mineral Manakanite. Titanium can be found in many forms. As well as its most common form, sand, it is present in most igneous rocks. But it also shows up in all sorts of minerals such as ilmenite and rutile. A few years after Gregor's discovery, a German chemist, M.H. Klaproth, named the new element titanium, after the Titans of Greek mythology. In order to use titanium, it has to be converted into a usable form, which means extracting it from its source. And although many chemists worked on producing a process of titanium extraction, it wasn't until 1938 that a German scientist named Kroll invented the process which is still used in commercial production today.
Titanium is a very, very new industry, and unlike the other extractive industries. And the method of extracting it takes place in a sort of sealed bomb, the size of a large postbox. And so you get 15 tons of titanium produced in as many days. So it's very laborious indeed, and it's very costly. And when the titanium is produced, it has to be further refined because it's contaminated by the reductant. So titanium comes out in small pieces, which is a great shame because titanium is really a wonder metal. It's got fantastic physical properties.
Titanium has an extremely high melting point, 1,800 degrees Celsius, no less. These physical properties make titanium extremely useful in the aerospace industry, where it is used to make engines and structural components for aeroplanes, satellites, and spacecraft. But it is titanium's high price that's meant it's not been widely used as an architectural material. However, where it's been used in iconic buildings, such as the Van Gogh Museum in Holland and the Guggenheim in Bilbao, it has been used to great effect.
The key building in which titanium came to public notice is one of the key buildings of the late 20th century, and that is Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. And the story here is terribly interesting because it tells you quite a lot about what great architecture, an interesting architect, and radical use of materials can do. The original Guggenheim in New York was an extraordinary and indeed rather eccentric architectural monument itself. And the building became associated with the Guggenheim brand. And then at some point in the 80s or 90s of the last century, the people running the Guggenheim, they wanted to, as they say in the fashion industry, to do a sort of diffusion line. And they wanted to build Guggenheims, all over the place. And one of the places they alighted on was in Bilbao in northeastern Spain. Frank Gehry, was the designer, and I think Frank Gehry wanted titanium for a number of reasons. He'd considered at one point, I think, copper and brass. I don't know. And they decided that titanium had exactly the right sort of, qualities, and it also, interestingly, took up a lot of the colour. Whatever the colour was, from the local environment. So it has this marvellous sort of ambivalent qualities of being both hard and technical, but also sort of quite sculptural and poetic all at the same time.
Part of the 1960s California funk art movement, architect Frank Gehry's style has been considered by some as seeming unfinished or even crude. However, some of the buildings Gehry has designed have become tourist attractions.
There's very little known about how to use titanium in building construction. People know not about it in aircraft undercarriage and aircraft components, racing cars, medical prosthetics, whatever. But putting titanium around a building was, it was a new art. So what actually happened? The tiles were all brought to site. They were bent, on site. And then because Gehry wanted to have this ambitious sculptural effect, there were lots of strange re-entrant angles and awkward areas which the normal construction cranes couldn't access. So they actually had. They didn't train construction builders how to climb buildings, but they got some climbers and trained the climbers how to do the construction technique, rappelling up and down the building, putting the titanium tiles in place. And for good or bad, no one will ever design an art gallery in quite the same way again. That's not to say they'll copy, the Guggenheim in Bilbao, but it changes the level of the game.
But at the moment, titanium is still too expensive to be used in mainstream architecture. But all that is about to change.
What's been happening in the titanium industry, people have been looking for a way of reducing its cost.
James Hamilton and his colleagues at Green Metals are pioneering a new, cheaper and more efficient method for titanium extraction, known as the FFC Cambridge method, which, unlike the slow Kroll process, uses electrons to extract titanium.
It produces a cheaper product and a much purer product. Titanium has got these outstanding physical properties, and if it could be made cost affordable by a new method such as the FFC Cambridge process, it'd be far more widely used. If one was looking at a motor car, for example, one could have the advantages of a steel motor car, the advantages in safety, at half the weight, and that would mean that you could reduce the size of the engine by half, and if you reduce the size of the engine, you don't need such a strong body. So that is a virtuous circle.
Unlike other precious metals, titanium is likely to remain so, however affordable it becomes.
Gold is the most obvious, genuinely precious metal. But gold's got, apart from being a terrifically good electrical conductor, gold has got very few, practical attributes. But titanium's rather different. It's not precious, in itself, but becomes precious because of what you can do with it.
Lightweight was one of the main attractions for Dan Aitchison, designer of Ecose's Titanium Heretic series. The road bike is so called because it sports the world's first all-titanium frame, making it super light and super fast.
I'd say styling came second. It's definitely function before form. We wanted our first bike to be a high-performance street bike. So when we said street, we wanted it to be very, very simple and a lot of fun to ride. It's a blast. Whether you're in second, third, or fourth, it doesn't really matter. Just turn the throttle and pull right out. When we test ride bikes, for various reasons, especially we're prototyping a couple more bikes, we easily hit speeds of 145 to 155, not really trying that hard. We go all the way up to 120 cubic inch motor, but this motorcycle is so light that there's really no need to go above that, but we have played with larger motors and we'll see what kind of bike we dream up for that.
With its light frame, the Titanium Heretic is one of the world's most expensive production bikes, weighing in at a hefty 200,000 euros. But it does come with a free watch. Watchmakers also found the appeal of titanium's lightness attractive.
It's a great metal. It's light, it's extremely tough, hard, durable, but it has taken a long time for it really to be accepted by the watch buying public, because up until now, recently, over the last couple of years, there's been this association with wristwatches where heavy is good. I want to feel the weight. Do you know what I mean?
Omega, whose Seamaster watch was made famous on the wrist of James Bond, have made several watches using titanium.
Watches, they are really the ultimate status symbol. They can be the ultimate investment if you buy right. So really it's a great excuse for sort of male plumage. Titanium watches are perhaps not for the first time buyer, because normally the first time buyer wants to show that he's got something a bit special on his wrist. I think they are for more of a connoisseur, in that he knows it's titanium. It may not look like $1 million, but he knows, and that's kind of what matters to him. And I think that's a level of watch collecting that you get to after a while. I don't particularly think many people buy a titanium watch because, it is actually that much lighter. I don't think people care that much about the weight, etc. If anything, if you had to split it, probably 50-50, people still prefer a heavy watch. I think it's an inverse snobbery type thing. It's a sort of, I know.
Coming up later, the Luxury Channel goes to Antwerp's Diamond District. We hear from journalist and jewellery expert Vivienne Becker and meet one of the world's top jewellery designers, Solange Azaguri-Partridge. We also hear why one of the most famous companies in the world, American Express, have decided to make their Centurion card out of titanium. So far, the Luxury Channel has met artists and designers working with titanium and discovered how recent breakthroughs in technology are positioning titanium to become the super metal of the 21st century. Over the last 50 years, titanium has already proved to be technically superior in aerospace, the military, and even the medical industry. But it is only now that the metal is really coming into its own in areas such as jewellery and design, although it enjoyed brief periods in the limelight during the 1970s when British jewellery designers first began using it. London's Victoria and Albert Museum is home to some of the earliest works by jewellers working in titanium.
Jewellers started to experiment with titanium in the early 1970s, and it was a point when many jewellers were questioning the use of precious metals and wanted an alternative to the conventional gold. And titanium gave them a much cheaper option to work with, but also it had immense possibilities. Titanium can be transformed into the most extraordinary colour range, beautiful sort of shimmering greens, pinks, yellows, browns, purples, an amazing range of colours which depend on either the voltage, if it's produced by electrolysis, or dependent on the temperature, if it's produced by heat treatment. The earliest piece of jewellery we have in the collection is from 1977, and it's by Edward Delage. He combined various techniques. He first of all would brush the surface in different directions to gain a three-dimensional effect within his work and an idea of false perspective. And he would then, using electrolytic processes, build up different colours, masking different areas to get different colours. To change the surface in localised areas, he would use a gas torch and even a little paintbrush that he would wire up with an electric current so that he could pinpoint tiny areas that could be made distinct from the bright colours around them.
Jewellery historian Vivienne Becker has written several books on the subject. A member of the British Society of Jewellery Historians, she lectures on jewellery around the world.
The jewellers in the 70s, they were in a new breed of craft jeweller, of designer jeweller, art school educated probably for the first time. And they, again, wanted to make their mark. They wanted to change all the conventions of jewellery. Delage, and there are a few other well-known designers, played with the colours of titanium, but used it in a very non-jewellery-like way.
Delage and his contemporaries were incredibly forward-thinking for their time. Today, jewellery designers have even more tricks up their sleeves.
What's different today is that techniques have been so improved, and it's only in the last few years when, in fact, jewellery making has undergone a whole transformation in terms of high technology, of computer-aided design. We're seeing a whole new era.
Launch party in London, one of the world's hottest jewellery designers, Solange Azuguri-Partridge, is unveiling her new collection, Titanium Black Rainbows. Solange's designs are testament to how much techniques in titanium jewellery design have moved on since the 1970s.
Solange is a leader of a whole new generation of designer jewellers. She's very intent on breaking barriers, on pushing forward, on playing with all the cliches and the conventions of jewellery design, really turning them on their head. She's been enormously successful and she carries on pushing forward.
Solange broke the rules by creating dramatic sculptural settings from unconventional combinations of stones, including uncut precious and semi-precious gems. She has attracted a big celebrity following. Her designs have been seen about town on actresses and models such as Tandy Newton, Kate Moss and Kristin Scott Thomas.
Well, I'd always wanted to work with titanium, to be honest, and had never quite worked out how to go about it because it's a very difficult material to work with. It has a colour changing ability, it's very chameleon-like. And it's very tough and resilient, and it's space age, and it's used in surgical instruments and body replacement. So it's got this amazing kind of clean. It's got a very kind of clean connotation to it.
Solange's jewellery is not the only titanium attracting attention in London tonight. The collection has been produced to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the American Express Centurion card in the United Kingdom.
The American Express Centurion card's only available to a very small group of highly affluent customers, and what we wanted to deliver to them was a really exclusive membership experience of lifestyle and travel benefits. We chose titanium because it has strength, flexibility, and versatility, which is a rare material and one that we were able to create a payment card product from that was completely unique in the marketplace. So from the moment that a customer picks up this material, they feel that it's different, they can tell that it's something really special.
Titanium has a kind of breathtaking quality as well. It's like the high wire act of virtuoso craftsmanship. For instance, one of the aspects that people don't understand is that not only does it involve barrier-breaking technology, but that the workmanship is so fine, it's so precarious that a jeweller, a craftsman, can work on a huge piece of jewellery for hundreds and hundreds of hours. And if one tiny piece breaks, then literally the whole piece has to be scrapped and he has to start over. So it's not very easy on the nerves.
The artisan responsible for producing Solange's extraordinarily intricate pieces in titanium is Francis Mertens. 9 years ago, Mertens was running a trucking business in Antwerp. Today he is designing and making jewellery high-tech style. He is currently the industry's go-to guy for titanium. Based in Antwerp, his company manufactures for a host of other big names, such as Bergdorf Goodman. He is one of a few designers who have mastered the art of working with the notoriously unpliable metal.
In my business, when people tell me from my team and it's not possible, then I want to do it. So that's our approach in our industry to the titanium. In the beginning, it was very difficult to start exploring the methods. With titanium, you don't have a lot of trial and errors. In the coloring process, you have a lot of possibilities too, but there again, there is almost no trial and error. You have to do it right from the first time. In gold, there's always a way to solder it and to make it happen. In titanium, not. But you have a lot of possibilities with it. But if it goes wrong, it goes really wrong, and you can throw away the piece. Titanium, at the moment, there's not a lot of color in the jewelry business, so thanks to titanium we can use the colors. And then of course we have the three-dimensional pieces, but so far it was very difficult to master these pieces in gold and in platinum. And with titanium, because of the lightness of the material, we can create wonderful 3D pieces.
Francis and his partner Daniel Goldberg have developed a new laser technique which will enable them to use titanium in design as it has never been used before. These techniques will allow them to produce everything from large pieces of titanium furniture to intricate pieces of art.
Francis Mertens has an immense technical expertise, so we are not limited in the type of objects or projects that we want to work with. We want to create pieces for the design world, to produce just decorative pieces, furnitures or tableware, etc., based in titanium. Titanium is probably the last exciting metal which has not been tapped in the luxury sector, but has been widely used in a sector where performance and efficiency was in priority, like the aerospace or the medical surgery industry. But we have the technical expertise to work the titanium in a way that would allow us to produce unbelievable luxury pieces.
One thing is for certain. Titanium really is the forward-facing metal of the future.
For me, it signals a whole new era of connoisseurship. And there's a new emphasis on the contemporary jewel as a work of art, and titanium really makes this happen.
The future of this material is for a whole lot of industrial applications which at the moment are out of the reach of commercial titanium. Titanium has got these outstanding physical properties, and if it could be made cost affordable by a new method such as the FFC Cambridge process, it'd be far more widely used.
I think titanium obviously has an enormous future because of the weight. If things are lighter, they transport quicker, faster, cheaper, etc. There's a great future for titanium, and it is a gorgeous metal to work with.
You know, I suppose when something hides how complicated it is, it's quite nice not to see how problematic something's been. It just, you know, it just looks quite natural and easy, but it wasn't.